Okay, we back and we are live. Thanks y'all for joining this week. I am Melanie Nnogo. And like I always start off these videos, I just like to do a little intro about me. I've been a techie since I came out the womb, from customizing my Black Planet page to launching enterprise software for a Fortune 5 company. I've done it all in the tech space, and now I'm building for myself and helping others along the way. So, welcome to the 5 Credit Startup, where I'm building companies in public using tools like ChatGPT, Lovable, and a bunch of others, but with a product manager's mindset. So, let's get into it. I just keep seeing people say things like AI is replacing developers, or AI is replacing product managers, or AI is replacing founders. And honestly, that's not quite true. I think it's the wrong conversation to be having because after building multiple product with AI tools, what I've learned is something very, very different. AI can do a lot of things and it can do a lot of things well. It collapses time in a lot of ways, but it still can't really decide what matters. It can give you really great guidance on what might matter, but you still have to do the legwork that is being a product manager, that is your market research, that is being a founder. And that's where founders and product managers come in. So, one of the biggest misunderstandings about AI is that a lot of people think AI removes the need for expertise. I have an MBA, and I know that it is my background and my knowledge and my lived experiences that make doing what I do with AI much faster, but still quality. If you don't necessarily have the knowledge or the expertise behind it, that's where you start to fall into trouble. What I've actually found is that AI amplifies my expertise. If you have experience, AI makes you faster. If you understand customers, AI makes you faster. If you know how to prioritize, AI just makes you faster. The expertise still matters, the leverage of it changes. So instead of spending your time as a product manager um, writing down your product backlog, you can use AI to help you spit that out more quickly. But you still need to have a very clear understanding of what goes into that product backlog and what and how you're prioritizing those features to be built and how you describe it to your developers, right? So the knowledge and the understanding and the background is still required. However, how you execute that just becomes a lot faster these days. If you think about it, before AI, um, what used to take a product to launch, you needed someone to define requirements, often the product manager and or business analyst that you worked with. You need someone to design the screens, usually a UX designer, UX UI designer. You need someone to write the code, multiple someones if you're depending on how complicated, right? Front end developer, back end developer, or a full stack developer that claims they can do both. Not always true. A data scientist if you're working with a lot of data, right? You needed multiple people to touch the code base. You needed someone to test everything, so you needed DevOps in some way, shape, or form. You need to be able to write the content that goes on the platform, every little button, every little action, every little user interaction required someone to be able to come up with what that language is and make sure that it's in line with the ethos and the brand of the platform. And you need someone to manage the project. So usually a scrum master. If you don't have a product manager that is duped in playing both product manager and scrum master role. And then for many founders, that meant waiting months or years before they can even test an idea. Can you imagine the amount of time I I don't have to imagine. I did it. I lived it. The amount of time you waste. I hate to say waste because I definitely learned a lot going that route. Um, but just to test an idea, just to get it to market, just to see if it's possible. And then don't even get me started. This is a little bit of a tangent. Don't get me started on the lonely little founder that does not have the funding as some of these other companies that are backed, that basically look over your shoulder and say, "Oh, what you doing? Oh, okay, that's cool. Let me go ahead and do it over here with my millions of dollars of VC backing and beat you to the market." I can't tell you the number of times that's happened, but that's a different story for a different day. So if you're interested in hearing it, let me know in the comments. But yeah, so mind you, this is not a call for AI is the best thing in the world and it must take over and you must use it. That's not really what this is. I've said this before. My whole thing is AI is here for the right now. And if we're thinking about skipping steps, building wealth, catching up, closing the technology gap, closing the wealth gap, I'm all for leveraging what's available at your fingertips while it's available. Now, the government could come tomorrow and put, really strict sanctions and restrictions on the use of AI, and I will be 100% on board because I'm all about using technology ethically. But while it is the wild, wild west, this is where people make their money, okay? This is where people make their points. And I just want more of us to be knowledgeable and invested in what is going on and how you can leverage it to improve your life while it is available. That's all I'm saying. So today, right, after AI, what's changed a lot is I can sit down with ChatGPT, I can work through a concept, go back and forth. Me and Chat, we have a real straightforward kind of conversation. She'll let me know what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, maybe go in a different direction, almost like a co-founder. She's been pretty cool that way. I can create a blueprint, so a good solid foundation of what I want to do. I can generate my requirements. I can build a prompt that I will then copy paste and put into Lovable, and then let Lovable create the prototype. Now, what's cool about this is that Lovable doesn't take time, right? The last client project that I showed you guys last week took me all of a day, a few hours, honestly, to get it up and running. As long as you have the credits available, that's your primary restriction, how many credits you have available. And like I said, I started off on the free plan, 5 credits a day, 6 days available a month, so 30 credits a month. That can still get you pretty far. So yeah, I was able to get that up and running in no time. Use that to create a prototype, and then you can use that to start testing and getting market feedback faster, which is the whole point of all of this. Rarely do you have an idea that takes off immediately. What's that guy? Dual camera, dual coder. There's one app that's been popping off. If y'all remember the name, put it in the comments below. But it's you can record horizontal and vertical at the same time. Pretty dope. That took off like gangbangers because it so clearly met a need, but also he also knew his market, right? He also already had a platform, already had like a way to welcome this app into the world. And so it needed those two things. It needed the right market to enter into, and it needed the right idea. Boom, chef's kiss, took off like gangbangers. That's not the norm. Okay, that doesn't happen for everybody. And so being able to build something quick, cheap, fast, quick and fast are the same thing, but with fewer resources, that gives you the ability to test and say, okay, is this working? Is this something that people are interested in? And if not, the important part is, if not, what have you lost? You have lost maybe a couple days, you've lost maybe a couple dollars, and you can mourn that loss a lot easier than if you had spent 3 years and almost $50,000, $60,000 trying to build a platform and take it to market just for the market to tell you that this is not something that we want. I'm gonna wait for this plane to fly by. Okay, so start testing. Yeah, that's the incredible shift, if you ask me. But here's the important part. It's not like AI is making the decisions and telling me what to build and saying, hey, Melanie, I noticed that these people are having these issues and why don't you build something that addresses. No, AI isn't doing that. It still requires me to be a present, creative, curious member of society to be able to say, I think there's a product for this problem that I'm seeing. And so I'm still very much the captain of the ship. AI is just a very, very handy second mate? Is that what it's called? So just to point out more specifically, what AI is great at it's fantastic at creating first drafts. I still need to go in and iterate on those and point it and move it in the right direction. It's fantastic at organizing information. What I have found is that in my early founder days, I would respond to a pitch competition application or a VC fund application using language that made sense to me, right? I would describe the problem in a way that made sense to me. I would talk about the solution in a way that made sense to me, whether that was more colloquial or just in a market or a way that was outside of the people that was reading the application's lived experience. What I found now, however, is that AI is a fantastic translator. I can say that I believe the problem is X, Y, and Z, and that it's affecting these people in A, B, and C ways. And it'll say, okay, that's great. And it's great that you see it that way. But your audience, the people that are about to read this information, they need to hear it and see it in a completely different way. And so AI has done a really great job of being able to translate what I believe to be information that is easily digestible, but translating in a way that VCs care about, pitch competitions care about, the people that might be funding your ideas or buying into your ideas. It does a fabulous job of reorganizing that information. It also is great at accelerating execution. I've talked about this ad nauseum. It's also fantastic for helping founders move through blank page problems. I cannot tell you the number of times where you're sitting, again, whether it's a pitch competition application, whether it's a VC application, whether it's even just like, what is my strategy for Q4? And like staring at a blank page is probably just the hardest thing ever to do, especially in the beginning, right? After some time, you have previous versions that you can look back on and just refine them, et cetera, et cetera. But if you're starting something from scratch, it is really great to have like a virtual co-founder that you can be like, all right, these are my high level ideas. Let's refine that and move past the initial, like, how do I even begin to talk about this thing? So I use it pretty constantly, almost every day. Sue me. But I never assume Chat is right or Claudette. I never assume that they're right. I always verify. I always go back, make sure if I'm leveraging it for writing, I definitely go back and make sure that it's in my voice. I'm not trying to sound like no robot. And, I'll go back and forth with Chat sometimes. I'll be like, this sounds entirely too static. This sounds, entirely too robotic. My voice. Let's refine this a little bit so it sounds a little bit more human-based. And then, yeah, I treat it like a very fast collaborator, like a low-key co-founder that you don't have to worry about equity with, you don't have to worry about takeovers with later, just somebody that you can bounce ideas back and forth with very quickly. But what Chat and the rest of them are not, they're not experts. They will never be experts. They know a lot. They know a lot about a lot, which is wonderful, but they are not experts. And I'm not delusional about that. Some things that AI cannot do or is not very good at yet is first, they don't understand your customers like you do. Chat and Claude, they're not at the parties, at the functions with you, seeing firsthand the way people are interacting and what the issues might be, or when they're, you're having meetings with people. What I've been able to do though is sometimes I'll record, like use a note taker when I'm talking to a customer, and I'll use that with Chat and Claude and be like, all right, this is the meeting that I had. These are the insights that I saw. Are there any other insights that you might have seen? So I will give it that grace. But no, for the most part, it doesn't necessarily know or understand your market or your customers the way that you do. It doesn't always know what trade-offs matter. It does a really good job of helping you quantify and qualify pros and cons and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's still you that has to decide what is important. It can only bring its robotic lived experience to the table. So you have to bring that real life element. It doesn't know which features should be built first. And it truly doesn't, because for my platform Rialto, I tried using it to tell me, okay, I'm stuck between these two features. Which one should I go with first? Obviously, optimizing customer experience with the number of credits I had left for the month. And while it had really good ideas and really good thoughts, it wasn't quite able to give me the direction that I felt was correct. So I had to go with my gut anyways, because where it was going was a little bit more commercial focused than what I felt was needed at the time. So it's also it also does not know which assumptions are dangerous, right? If you think about it, AI is built by humans, and humans are inherently biased. Um, there's a good example of like um, a resume screener. I think there was an app that was a resume screener, and it was doing a poor job of recognizing gaps in women's resumes. Um, for a human HR recruiter, right? Some of those gaps are explained either through caregiving, um, or other common reasons why a woman might have left the workplace for a little bit of time. This AI screener did not do a very good job of it. They ranked those resumes lower, because they could not understand why there would be a gap in employment. And so the idea there is that some human that was building this code that said this is what a strong resume looks like completely missed a good portion of society who may take a step back from the workplace in order to have kids, raise their family, and then come back, and was not able to, ethically build that into their software. So AI is inherently flawed because the humans that are building AI are also inherently flawed. That is one major issue when it comes to AI. And then it doesn't know what you're willing to sacrifice to achieve your goals, right? Not everybody is trying to live on ramen and, build out of their garage, their parents' garage, in order to get their dream off the ground, right? Some people like me now are more okay with taking a step by step, eat the elephant one bite at a time, bootstrapping approach to let's test this out. Let's take the time to really understand what's working and what's not working. And AI doesn't always know that. And honestly, that's why I left ChatGPT for a while, went to Claude, but came back to ChatGPT because Claude honestly feels more like aggressive when it comes to some of its strategies. It is like Claude is definitely built more so for like the established team that has different departments and can execute on what it's talking about. For me, that solo building, tinkering around, kind of still getting everything established, it just felt like, who's doing all this? Because it ain't me. And if you're not helping me with the extra steps like chat tends to do, then I don't have time for it. So that's why I went back to chat. Even though we're not really supposed to be supporting Anthropic. I hear you guys, I do. So yeah, all of those decisions still belong to the founders, still belong to the product managers, and are extremely necessary to building and getting things off the ground. So okay, all of this is supposed to be side by side with me building a company out loud. And so I will use AIC, my nonprofit, as an example. Now, I've been trying to figure out the best way or the most interesting way to do this because I don't know that you guys watching me doodle and get my thoughts on paper is the best use of this time, but y'all let me know if you really want to see that behind the scenes. But what I'll share with you today are some of the things that in preparing for this build, I got together and how I use them. So give me 2 seconds and I'll share my screen and we can talk through them. You share. Okay, looks like you can see it. Where is Adobe? I don't need a report. Oops, thank you. You just shut down everything I already had open. Okay, give me 2 seconds. Let's start with this. And then I'll also see if I can open up this. There we go. Okay, so I told y'all I usually start with a doodle of some sort. Now, this is not a product doodle. This is a business operations. How do I see this working kind of doodle? Yeah. None of this is necessarily like super proprietary information, so I'm okay with sharing it with y'all. But this was my starting, right? It was okay. We have the first year in front of us. What needs to be established? We need to establish our U.S. operations, and we need to establish our Nigerian operations. As a reminder, this is an entity that essentially takes donations from abroad and provides it to folks on ground in Nigeria. So this was also my way of kind of brainstorming how I'll describe this for our board, and just so they have an idea of all the different operations and where they land. So responsible for U.S. donation collection, I mentioned that. Website development is under the U.S. operations as well. And I couldn't read my handwriting. I don't know what I'm talking about right here. And the Nigerian operations responsible for grant aid disbursement, and then also evaluating aid requests, making sure that everything is valid, and then being able to follow up, on the impact of the grants. A little bit of doodling and brainstorming on different payment methods for the donors. We need a bank account. We need a website that does a couple of these things. We also need compliance for the recipients, so that they can leverage it for their taxes, which is the whole big differentiator. And then just kind of mapped out a little timeline as far as like how I want to get this stuff done. And this is where we are, Q2, coming on the end of Q2, but we're working on the website, so we are on time. The second thing that I also did was create a document for, this is when I was recruiting board members. And so this required me to sit down and really think through, like, what is our mission statement? What are we doing? Why are we doing it? How are we doing it? What is the problem? What differentiates us from a solution standpoint? I've already talked to you guys about how the fact that there are so many remittance platforms and so many ways people can already donate. How do we cut through the noise? How do we show any kind of differentiation? This is the way. And then our vision, so being able to do more, right? So yes, we might start with individuals that have direct needs for where their money goes, but eventually our hope is that the pool of money just becomes more blended, and we're able to do more things with it. So whether that's potentially building a school, or building a hospital, or partnering with a hospital to improve operations, we have very big plans for where this could go. This is what it means to be a board member. Skip that part. But this is impact in action. So where do we focus? What are we? What are the benefits for the board members, et cetera, et cetera. So these are the two big things that I had available. And then when I think I've shared with y'all, thinking about how to build this using Lovable, honestly, is a bit intimidating. I have built a marketplace on Lovable, which was a little more complicated than I thought it would be, but it's working out pretty well. SewSabi, check it out, SewSabi.com. I've used it to build a community founder platform where founders get assessments. They can figure out where they are in their stage of development, and then figure out what exactly they need to do to get to the next phase. The whole idea is making it easier for them to understand what funding is available for them at a particular stage, so that they don't necessarily have delusions about, why a VC isn't calling them back when they are pre-revenue. And so that was also fairly complicated, but it worked out pretty well because it's not, it's complicated in the number of features that it has, not necessarily like the functionality or the things that it has to do. So those two are cool. Now, this is a straight up fintech app. It is money comes in, money needs to go out. There needs to be compliance. There needs to be a whole bunch of other things that we consider within the platform. So that is a little bit daunting. So what I wanted to do actually is go to, let me pull it up first so I can show y'all, and then I will tell y'all about the website. There's a website called gamma.app. Shout out to my friend Kimberly Vignette. She was the one that let me know about it. And what it does, and you can see it right here, made with Gamma. I have started using that to create documents. It takes, you can give it an outline, it'll spit out a document that looks very professionally designed. But they also have a website feature. Now, I'm not sure how far the website feature goes, but I wanted to use it for this, and this was superb. It's a mock-up. And so I gave it a text version of this roadmap that I showed y'all, and I gave it this board information and a little bit more. I'm building a website. It's for the diaspora, for folks abroad to be able to send money home to loved ones, but also to receive a tax break. And so basically gave it all the high level stuff. And I said, build me a website that I could use for this. Now, what I wanted this for is when I get to Lovable, this document will be the primary attachment that I upload to Lovable, because it already gives it an idea of the features that I'm looking for, the vibe and the brand and all the things, right? So Abroad Impact Collective, a community-driven platform empowering Nigerians abroad to support loved ones back home with purpose, transparency, and real tax benefits. Chef's kiss. It gave me a really dope hero for the website that I didn't have to sit and try and brainstorm and be cute about. Hold on. Wait a minute. Let me put something in it. Okay. Why is it not going? Adobe shut down on me again. I'll just open up the website and hopefully that document does not shut down Adobe. Okay. So then it talks about our mission. It says, read our story. Perfect. Now in Gamma, none of these buttons actually functioned. And I didn't take the time to figure out, okay, if I wanted to, this is just like the case, right? If I wanted to start building the connectors and the plumbing and stuff like that, I didn't really start looking into that because again, I'm using Lovable to actually build the prototype. But this did, as you can see, a really, really, really great job of, are you shutting down again? I don't understand this. Okay, sorry about this. This is not a usual thing for Adobe. I'm not really sure how else to be able to open this, so I'll just try and walk through it really quickly. Okay, so that's the mission. The problem that we're solving, it's already, okay, it's fine. But you guys get the gist, right? It really just essentially walked me through every single aspect of the website. And then, let me stop sharing because that's a little sick. Okay, so walk me through basically every single aspect of the website and how the look and feel might be. Next week, when I get back in here, I'll take that, and what I'll do live is upload it to Lovable. I'll also go to ChatGPT, get me the prompt that I want to use. Probably will use that same website document to get the prompt in ChatGPT. And so between that document and the prompt, we'll go into Lovable and see what it spits out for us as a first swing for this website that we're building. And then we'll just take it chunk by chunk after that. And then that's next week? That is the 24th. And then after that, I'm bringing in a founder friend. So one of my Hustle for Network apprentices, this first quarter of the year, her goal was to build a prototype for her business in order to take it out to market, start getting feedback, see how the market responds to this idea that she's had for a while. And I wanted y'all to hear it from the horse's mouth. I wanted you to hear it from someone that considers themselves a non-technical founder, someone that wasn't quite familiar with AI, someone that was actually going through the I need a developer, I need a development team process when I subtly convinced her to use Lovable instead. And so I'm really excited to bring her on board so that you guys can talk to her in real time. And then, yeah, if you have any topics that you'd like me to cover, if you have any questions, or if you want support building your own app, feel free to reach out. You can get connected with me through the Hustle Forward Network link in the description for this video. And then also, if you're tinkering around with Lovable, definitely make sure that you leverage my referral code as well. You get some credits, I get some credits. It's a win-win situation. And yeah, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share any parts of this that was interesting to you or helpful to you. And I will see you guys again next week. Until next time.